Okay, so welcome to your first lesson in Higher and National 5 philosophy. Now, I'm recording this PowerPoint and I'll be recording the subsequent PowerPoints. So you basically have a guide to help you through each of the lessons. Now, before we get started, we need to think about the Higher Philosophy course. Now, the Higher Philosophy course is split up into 3 units. This is our first unit, Arguments in Action. In this unit, we're sort of looking at how people argue and considering different aspects of an argument. What makes an argument valid or invalid, sound or unsound? What's the difference between deductive and inductive reasoning? What about things like analogical arguments? What kind of fallacies do we make in our reasoning? So we're going to have a look at formal and informal fallacies. Now, fallacies are basically errors in our reasoning which make our arguments redundant, basically, or maybe not redundant, but they certainly affect the kind of validity of an argument. We're also going to be working on argument diagramming. Those of you in Higher are going to have to learn how to argument diagram. And those of you in National 5 are going to have to learn how to put an argument into standard form. Those of you in Higher will also know how to put things into standard form, but you'll also have to take the extra step of putting arguments into a diagrammatic format. Now, in addition to these two, or in addition to this unit, there are 2 other units. The second unit that we're going to study is moral philosophy, and this is where we're going to have a look at 2 really popular approaches to morality in philosophy called Kantianism and utilitarianism, and you're going to have to decide which is the better moral theory, as well as understanding how someone who follows that particular philosophy would respond to a certain situation. So, for example, cheating in an exam. The final unit that we're going to have a look at is called Knowledge and Doubt, and that's going to be about the philosophical discipline of epistemology, which thinks about what knowledge is. And in that, you're going to have a look at the debate between rationalism and empiricism, which are 2, again, philosophical theories upheld by 2 philosophers, or the 2 philosophers that we're going to study who uphold these philosophies are David Hume and René Descartes. So let's have a look at the structure of your assessment. It would help if the PowerPoint would move on. There we go. So when we're thinking about assessment, at higher level, there are 2 components, and they are both exam papers. The first paper is where you are going to write 2 30-mark essays, 1 on moral philosophy and 1 on knowledge and doubt. In the moral philosophy section, you'll have a choice of 2 essays. One of the essays will be about applying the moral theory to a scenario, and the other will be a response to a quote about the moral theory, and then you have to write a 30-mark essay about one of them. The second essay has to be on knowledge and doubt, and that section of the paper does not give you a choice. There is 1 essay, and it will either be on Descartes or Hume. The second paper is where you're actually going to find the arguments and action content, as well as content from the other 2 units. These are shorter questions, which are split off into 3 sections based on each of the units. They're not essay responses. They are shorter responses where, for example, you'll be expected to draw an argument diagram, or assess the validity of an argument, or state some facts about Bentham's hedonic calculus. These are things which you'll be doing in the second paper. National 5, there are 2 components. You've got the question paper, which is made up of short questions about all of the units covered in the course. So arguments in action, moral philosophy, and knowledge and doubt. And then you also have to do a research essay. Now, this research essay is something which I can give you some guidance on, but you are expected to write it independently. You will be expected to work on it right up until, I'm estimating, about March. where you will then have to write it up under exam conditions. So it's worth 20% of your overall marks. So it's the overall course is out of 100, 20 of those marks come from the essay. The higher course is worth 110 marks, and they both come from the exam papers. So I say they both, I mean both of the marks, or both of the exam papers total up your 110 marks. So what we're going to do is you are going to put the title on a Word document or in a jotter or whatever you've got. Your title is Statements and Arguments, and your learning intention, or your learning intentions, is to understand what is meant by a statement and to understand how arguments are structured. Your success criteria, which you don't have to write down, but you can if you want, is to differentiate between questions, statements, commands, and exclamations, and to explain the difference between proving and refuting to your partner. Although you won't have a partner in this lesson, you will have to be able to explain the differences to yourself through taking notes in that paired task later on. Now, the format of higher philosophy up until summer is that you are going to be given 2 or 3 lessons per week. And what you're going to do is you're going to watch these videos that I'm making each week, which explain things for you. You'll then, either in conjunction with the video or after you've watched the video, complete the different tasks which you'll then submit to me. Now, that is how we're going to do it up until summer. So, statements and arguments. First of all, on your document, on your workbook, on your jotter, whatever, I want you to write down all of the thoughts, ideas, words and phrases which come to mind when you see the word argument. So I'm going to give you, or I would normally give you, 2 minutes to do this. So I'll give you 2 minutes to do that, but for the sake of obviously the kind of length of this video, we're going to move on. So each time a task comes up, if you're doing the task alongside the video, pause the video, do the task, and then come back. So what's an argument? So in philosophy, the word argument means something quite specific, and this can be different from how it's used in everyday language. An argument is a series of statements, which we call premises, given in support of a conclusion, the point that's been argued for. So for example, let's talk about an argument. Let's say that premise 1, all cats have 4 legs. Premise 2, Francis is a cat. Therefore, conclusion, Francis has 4 legs. The 2 premises, or the 2 statements at the start, which are premises, support the conclusion that Francis has 4 legs. So that's the difference between premises and a conclusion. So, the purpose and importance of arguments. The purpose of an argument is to prove or disprove something. You can't do that without statements. In arguments, they act as the evidence for the claim you want to prove. So the evidence for Francis having 4 legs is all cats have 4 legs and Francis is a cat. So both of those premises support the conclusion that Francis must have 4 legs. Arguments are important in philosophy because they have the power to get others to agree to something they might otherwise have disagreed with. So the ancient philosopher Socrates actually says that if you're in a debate and you lose a debate, well, actually you've won the debate because you've realized that there's some truth in something that you didn't agree with before. So that is the kind of power of arguments in philosophy. They can convince you or your opponent or your friends or your family or whoever you know who you're engaging in an argument with of something which they might not have previously agreed with. So, what's a statement? A statement is a sentence that has truth value. This means it can be proved true or false. So, for example, Mr. Ferrier teaches philosophy. That can be proven true by the fact that I'm teaching you philosophy just now. Another example, the East Beach has sand. Well, you just have to go down to the East Beach and see that there's a pile of sand there. So that again proves that the East Beach has sand, so it has a truth value, it's true. Another example, Lossy High is getting a new school. Well, all you have to do is look at the back of our current school and see that a new one's been built for us. Again, it's proven true that Lossy High is getting a new school. So, facts like the sky is blue can be proved true or false by using evidence. So they can be statements. They, again, are proven true or false by evidence. Statements are the only kind of sentences that belong in an argument. Anything else doesn't help to prove the arguer's point and so is useless. So that means things like take your jacket off, get lost, yum yum, oh my god. These kinds of things do not belong in an argument. You might be asked at higher especially to basically read a paragraph and you'll be expected to cross out all the things which aren't statements because they don't actually support your conclusions. So we need to get them out of there so then we can effectively put an argument into standard form or in the form of a diagram. So you now have, or there is a document on Google Classroom with a set of sentences. And what I want you to do is next to them, type statement or not a statement. And then I want you to submit that back to me so I can then give that a mark. So just a quick tip here when we're thinking about identifying statements. A good way to identify statements is to try and work out if it's correct to say if it's true or false. So a way to do this is to add, it is true that in front of the sentence. If the resulting sentence makes sense, then it is a statement. Otherwise, it's not. So for example, if I take the statement, all cats have 4 legs, if I put, it is true that all cats have 4 legs in front of it, well, that makes it a statement. Or it's a way to identify it as a statement because it makes sense to say it is true that all cats have 4 legs. You can't, for example, put, it is true that yum yum. Or it is true that, oh my god. That doesn't give any kind of truth value. All it does is make a sentence that doesn't really make much sense. Okay. So thinking about other sentences. A command is an instruction given to someone. Commands don't have a truth value. Close the door, shut up, get out of my classroom. These kinds of things are commands. You're telling someone to do something. There's no truth in them. You're just telling someone to do something. A question is a sentence used to find out information. So, for example, does God exist? In the example here, do you have any criminal convictions? Why did you become a teacher? Why did you bother taking philosophy? These sentences are trying to get information out of someone or something, like a book, for example. An exclamation is a remark expressing emotion, surprise, or pain. Oh my God. Those kinds of things are expressing something, but they aren't giving anything towards an argument because they don't have a truth value. So commands, questions, and exclamations do not have a truth value. The way to distinguish between them, a command, as I've said, is you are instructing someone to do something. Close the door, get out of my classroom. A question, you can find a question mark, as you can see here. An exclamation tends to have an exclamation mark at the end of it. It is really that simple. So, again, you don't have a partner just now. So what you're going to do is there is an information sheet about proving, asserting, denying, and refuting a claim. What you're going to do is you're going to take notes from that worksheet. What you're then going to do is use that information to do this. I want you to prove, assert, refute, and deny the existence of God. Now, I don't care if you believe in God or not. What I want you to do is to use the information on the other sheet to prove, assert, refute, and deny the existence of God. Whether or not you believe in God or not, this is just an exercise to test your knowledge from this task here. Once you've done that, I want you to read through pages 4 to 11 of your booklets and complete tasks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I want you to save your own copy of the booklet so you can work through it at home and it'll show your progress through the unit. Once we return to school, we'll sort out printing it off, etc., etc. Now, this is your first lesson of the week concluded. The next lesson will also be uploaded onto Google Classroom. This is how I'll be presenting lessons in future. So we will have the video, the tasks, and the booklet, and you'll be working through a PowerPoint, through the tasks, and through the booklets. Make sure that you've taken notes as well on the information that's been provided in this PowerPoint. So I'll see you in the next lesson. If you have any questions, do email or comment on Google Classroom. I will be there to help you. So I'll see you in the next lesson.